Hi there, and welcome to this episode of Write With Me at IELTS Juice. We have task 2 essay here, and the rubric, which is from Cambridge Book 17, says, "It is important for people to take risks, both in their professional lives and in their personal lives." You know me. When I read the topic, I read it slowly, I analyze it, I pay attention to the words. I want you to do the same thing. It says it's important for people in general. It doesn't matter people of which place, what location, which time in history, modern people, people in ancient times. We're not talking about that. People in general. To take risks. Okay, so we are talking about a generic term. Keep that in mind. And then IELTS goes ahead and divides it into two major categories, in professional lives and in personal lives. That means when we are going to talk about those two elements must be reflected in our essay. This is part of the task that we need to be mindful of. The question type says, do you think the advantages of taking risks outweigh the disadvantages? All right, so we have a typical advantage-disadvantage scenario, but in this case, IELTS doesn't ask what the advantages and disadvantages are. It simply says, do you think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? We need to paint a picture that either advantages are more than disadvantages, or the disadvantages are more than advantages. And in the end, we need to get to that point. We need to convince our reader that one side is better than the other. As a side note, you can say there are advantages and there are disadvantages, and basically they're the same, or it depends. But at IELTS, we don't have the time, we don't have the knowledge in English, and we don't have the resources to convince someone that there's a balance between the advantages and disadvantages. So that's a very, 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 very difficult way to answer this question. I don't want you to say there's a balance, or it depends, or they're almost equal. Please don't do that. Look at the question. Do you think the advantages, the answer is either yes, I do, or no, I don't. Done. I want you to think that way. I want you to be categorical and decide right now if advantages are more or disadvantages are more, and then write your essay. That would be the simplest way, and you will still get good scores, and there are ways that you can even improve your score. So it is possible to get higher than 7 in this scenario. Let's begin. I would like to start my essay, like any other essays, with an attention grabber. You know me, that I'm going to spend some seconds on this. In this case, I'm going to say, yeah, risks. Talk about risks. Talk about people avoiding risks or people taking risks for higher benefits. Take something like this. You can start by saying, it is an old saying that says, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Or you can say something like, there is always reward associated with risks. It depends on the reward. You might take the risk. That would be a very good opening statement, because sometimes you take a risk and it doesn't work out. You're rewarded by the experience. Or you sometimes take the risk and you are able to secure the reward of taking that risk. Both ways work. So you either get the experience or the reward that you want. there is always a reward associated with taking risks. Don't lose sight of that. Then I'm going to acknowledge that there are advantages and disadvantages. I need some connecting info. Don't make a decision yet. Keep this for a moment. Let's wait. Just mention that this trend, of course, has some advantages, disadvantages. Mention that you are focusing on the professional lives of people and personal lives. Mention the professional and personal here. You can change those words to career, to your private life, the time you spend with your family, or your free time. And then here in your thesis statement, please go ahead and make that statement, that whether you believe the advantages are more than disadvantages, so advantages are more than disadvantages, or vice versa, the disadvantages are more than advantages. Choose one of these scenarios. In my case, I'm going to say that, well, yeah, advantages of taking risks is more than disadvantages. In that case, in that scenario, I believe, I'm going to show you once again, I am going to say that advantages are more than disadvantages. I'm going to take the quantity route. I'm going to say 3 advantages over 2 disadvantages. But the way I'm going to structure them is important. I'm going to introduce the disadvantages first. There are 2 disadvantages, and I'll do my very best to minimize them, to show them that they are not that important, they are not that effective. I'm just going to show that yes, there are 2 disadvantages with taking risks. You might lose your time, you might put your family or your savings at risk. You might end up with nothing but the experience in your hand. You might unnecessarily make things more difficult for yourself. You might lose sight of your goals. Anything that you can think of, put them here. Remember, I told you the rubric is very generic. It's about all the people. I want you to be specific. Make one advantage about a professional life and give one example about the career. If people take risks in their career, what happens and what bad thing, what one bad thing that can happen to them or more than that. And also number 2, another disadvantage, another bad thing that can happen here. But this one in their personal lives. So professional lives, personal lives. Why am I doing this? Because if you look at the rubric, it talks about the professional lives first and then personal lives. So this one is, the first one is going to be an example with the focus on people's professional lives and the disadvantage that comes with taking risk in their careers. The second one is the disadvantage that comes to them if in their personal lives, and there will be some reflections on their personal lives in this part. Then I'm going to talk about advantages. Why am I doing that? I want to first mention the opposite side, but now that it is stated, I am going to mention as many advantages as possible, and at the same time I am going to show that these 2 disadvantages are also not that strong. How do I do that? Advantages, these two are again going to be first about the career, and the second is about the personal life. And you are going to mention that yes, with especially the topic sentence, despite the mentioned disadvantages, the advantages are far more than that. And you can go ahead and show how good this can be. If you take a risk for a company and it pays off, then you will be able to secure a managerial position. You may get a higher salary, you may get more experience, and at the same time it's rewarding. You have a sense of accomplishment in your life, and there is something that you can talk about. Move on to this one and say, and then you will be a better father, a role model for your children. You will be able to look after your family better. You will be able to rent or buy a better house because your salary is higher. And try to be specific. Try to say that the salary before the risk was maybe $50,000 a year. Now, actually that's income. So the salary was like, I don't know, $1,000 a month, but now it's $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month, and even more. So you will be respected at your workplace, and you will be a fulfilling husband, wife, father, mother, parent for your children. I mean, a role model, a fulfilling individual. That's what I actually meant. Then, my suggestion, if you are playing the quality game, this is enough. Like, these two must be in deeper than this, must say more influential aspects of a professional career and your personal life. They need to focus more on the quality and the depth and how effective they are versus maybe some temporary, not that important, not that deep disadvantages. So we minimize that and we improve this one by quality. But if you want to make sure, you can introduce another advantage, and this can be an advantage from another perspective. We talked about the individual's personal and professional lives, but what about society? Then this is also beneficial for society. There you go. Then you can add another element, quantity. So you have 3 advantages versus 2. Now your argument is better and it's deeper, and that is something that I really, really like. Do you need any more paragraphs? I don't think so. I actually want this paragraph to be large. I mean, I want this to be physically larger than this one, to show that there are really more advantages to this than disadvantages. Now, what do you do in the end? You repeat again that there are more advantages than disadvantages, as you said in the topic sentence, and you can name them. Put a label. Like, in their professional and personal lives, despite disadvantages A and B, you name them, there are C, D, and E advantages which make it completely, which make the argument completely in favor of this trend of taking risks to be productive, something good, and something that you can rely on and work on. And then maybe you can say something about taking risks, and you can come up with some predictions. You can suggest that this becomes part of the education system, or government gives budget to help them. This is optional. I just want you to make sure that your paragraph, your conclusion, is a paragraph, not just one sentence. That's key. All right, you have the layout over here. If you wish to see a sample we do on this rubric, click over here. If you wish to see other videos like this where we plan for letters, essays, and reports, click over here. And as always, eat healthy.